Hi, and so welcome back to Common Core Common Sense. I have with us Mr. Mike Parr and Miss Emaleigh Carr at Parks.
Parks.
I apologize. I just combined both your names.
My wife calls it all kinds of things. Don't worry about it.
I do that in my classroom.
No problem.
I get two things combined names. I do
It's
apologize.
not a problem.
All right, so we are humans. We are not robots. All right, so we're here to talk about what I grew up as knowing as band. But it's orchestra, and it's marching band, and it's chorus. Yes,
General
it's
music. Sure.
So the beautiful thing about this, and I'm just so excited I have to share. Emileigh's a former student of mine, and Mr. Parks taught me how to play music as well. So we're kind of all one big happy family. So here we go. How is band, and I'm just going to call it band, how is that different from other extracurriculars?
You want to go first?
Go for it.
Anytime a child is involved with school, there's a connection far beyond, just I'm in band, I'm in sports. I'm a basketball player, I was in band. I had a connection, my friends were there. All the research shows us that kids are in sports or in band because their friends are there. They love doing what they're doing, And they also have a sense of maybe that teacher or coach is a role model they so desperately need. So we find that children who are involved with any activity connect, their attendance is better, they have fewer tardies, fewer fights, there's a way to resolve issues within the group. So from a social aspect, then it's very powerful. At the same time, a lot of students find a niche they never had before. Music and participation in music helps them read better. Mm-hmm. It gives them an opportunity to have better higher order thinking, so they're better in math and just logic questions. So my students always achieved, and even the kids I teach today, they do better. And also a lot of students find a way to express themselves through music. They can create things, they can improvise, they can find ways that they feel like I'm good at this. Mm-hmm. In today's world of intervention and pulling students out to try to do that, sometimes we forget that sometimes the reason why the child is there is they're successful in that band class. They're successful in orchestra. It's the one time all day that they're proud of what they're doing. And someone is praising them and not saying, you're not reading well enough. Mm-hmm. You're not doing this well enough. Your grades. And so mom and dad come to their concerts. Grandma comes to their concerts. And all of a sudden, the child walks away feeling good about their experience at school. Children who feel good about school, children who feel like, gosh, there's a reason to get it. They don't go to school for their academic classes sometimes. They go because, you know what, this is where my life is. This is where my friends are. It's important for us to have children connect.
I agree. I think, like you said, especially from an academic standpoint, we're able to tie in each and every individual separate class, all in our own class. We have math, we have reading, we have science, all combined into one. So we're pretty special in that way that we can tie that in, and especially for the social thing. Even though I am a good 2 feet shorter than him, I was on the basketball team in high school, and I play a giant instrument. And it was very much a social thing. I did well in school, but really sports and music were why I had good attendance and why I kept my GPA up so I could participate in those extra things.
Mm-hmm. And I know that I've brought in punctuation. My students will freak out that are in band. They're like, you can draw a staff. I'm like, yeah, and this is what repeat means, and this was what a hold means, and this means rest. And, punctuation is important. It helps you create music when you're playing an instrument, when you're reading the music. And it helps create images in your mind when you're reading text. And, those voices, those characters going on in your head when you know that they stopped significantly,
right,
and such like that. So for their eyes to light up when they can make that connection between some core class and their extracurricular is really a lot of fun too.
Sure. A lot of times in education, again, I don't mean to go on with it, but we talk about rigor and relevance.
Yes.
Is it a rigorous curriculum? Are the children motivated? We worry so much sometimes about the children who are not succeeding, but the kids who are the high-end academic students, they need to be pushed as well.
Yes. And
they see the relevance. This is why I'm doing this, and the relevance. Again, more connection and more enthusiasm for them to be involved. I think you're right in the money with that.
Yeah. So if my child decides to join band, what kind of time will they spend in rehearsals? What can I expect for an impact on my family life?
Sure. You want to go first?
I think it depends mostly on the program, but getting closer to concert season, there are after-school rehearsals. I would say 2 to 3 hours sometimes. There are events such as all-county events, all-state events, solo and ensemble, things that will take up a Saturday here or there. But overall, the time commitment, as long as you're putting in the time day to day and in little increments, you can manage it very well.
I think too, it's important that teachers are really upfront with parents, let them know what it is. This is a co-curricular activity. It's not extra, it's not curricular. What we do in our normal classes, we perform that, we rehearse at their school, and so they need to know that there's an expectation. The state recognizes that, the school districts recognize the same thing. I do worry, I do have teachers, I did have teachers when I was a supervisor of music that I had to counsel with them because I felt like they were demanding too much time. When a child has to give up their family, give up their church activities, we encourage children to take through our guidance program high-end classes, AP, IB, gifted classes, but then we don't give them sometimes the time to do the work necessary. You can't just do that. I know my son, who is a sophomore in college, unfortunately spent too many nights that he went to bed at 1:45 in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning because he had a rehearsal to 9:30 at night. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important that we're all human, that we're part of one fabric, and part of why we work together as a complete faculty is that we do need to talk and make sure that we are understanding of what our students have in their life, and we are not the only thing. And the communication is the key, a handbook, a schedule, so parents clearly identify this is what I'm buying into.
Mm-hmm. Again, growing up with band, we had marching season and concert season. So are there any physical requirements? I mean, you mentioned being small and playing a large instrument. Was that especially difficult, or did people just kind of go, wow, that's a strange juxtaposition?
Mostly strange. I get a lot, if you go somewhere and you have to ride in an elevator, you take up half the elevator.
What did you play?
I play the double bass. So that is like half the elevator. But you get a lot of times, oh, that's a big violin. But, because like when I joined later in high school, so you really have that motivation. So it is just kind of something that you get over, and because you want to do it and you love doing it, it's not a problem at all.
I think too, as we begin to make sure that children know that our music, orchestra, band, chorus is open to everybody. Music is for life. It's a lifelong thing. And so when you join, I conducted the church orchestra for 3 years, and because we had a group, literally had a violinist who was an 84-year-old lady sitting next to a 12-year-old child. Mm-hmm. And they need to know that the love of music and the passion they have is there for that. With the American Disabilities Act, we have found more and more ways to accommodate any type of disability the child has. Even in marching band, I always put my students who had physical limitations into the front pit ensemble. They might even sit on a stool and play marimba or timpani, but I was not going to deny them the ability. If a child wants to play, we're talking about double bass. There's half-size basses, we have different sizes for children. We have stools. We have it is our job to have every child welcome. At the same time, I do encourage my students as well as my directors to be sure in the course of the year when you're bringing guests in that children see white, black, Hispanic, Asian, male, female, and at some point that child should say, yes, I can do this. There's someone who looks like me and acts like me. Mm-hmm. I can do this for my life. Mm-hmm. And when we don't think about those things, children feel alienated from what we do.
Yeah. Would you recommend private lessons ever? Or, is that a necessary thing? I know that they're out there. I see these signs and billboards for it all the time. But if my child's already, in class, would there ever be a time where I, as a parent, might say, my child has a real desire for this. They're not quite, they don't seem to be regressing or anything.
Would you go first?
I think it really depends on the student and the situation. But I do have many students that have been a part of private lessons and really excel. And if they put in that work and they're willing to take that time out to meet with a private teacher once a week or to get more music and have a different opportunity, it is really good for them. But at the same time, there are private lessons that don't work for everybody. Right. Kids are tired after school. If they don't want to put in the work, it's just not gonna benefit them. If they're willing, I think it's absolutely wonderful because they just get more experience and they're enjoying what they're doing. Right.
Yeah, I think you're so right. We again, as teachers, we teach parents because so many parents get into something and they don't really know yet what I'm getting into.
Exactly.
They don't know the power of what being involved with music can be with their child, or was, again, I was in sports and in music. I always tell my teachers, be sure the parents know this is a possibility for the gifted child and the child who has difficulty as well. We are the only class a child has all day where their individual contribution is equal to their ensemble. When I'm there, what I do affects you and it affects you. In math class, that's not the case. I'm graded individually. In English class, that's not the case. Right. And so we don't assess Even on our state testing, we don't assess yet the way we will in an ensemble class, because if I'm the basketball player and I miss the last foul shot, we lose the game, well, what I did affected my team.
Right.
If I play wrong notes, everybody in the band hears that sound, bad sound, etc. So I always tell my students, being there on time, playing your part. So if you excel and if you choose to do that, and I think you're so right on with that. That's right. I did, and with my my top band, we created a culture where the kids all wanted to take. Basically, all my top ensemble kids studied privately. I did not demand it, but the culture was, we need you. We need every child in this room to be the $1 million Orlando Magic player.
Right.
Everybody to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the long-term benefits of being in band beyond high school, beyond college?
Love of music, find time, a career possibly, and being a supporter of the arts, knowing that their children, or that my students who I taught my very first year are all 52 years old this year. And so I love to see them and their children, and they're almost all in music, because that parent knows what they did in their life. My students were better academically. You'll go and look at the Honor Society. It was dominated by all my students, and so I think when children find a connection, it goes back to they feel good. Their experience in there. One of my brothers, for example, he was not a student of anything but going to class, and there were times he would talk to me, he really did not feel excited about school. And here I was coming home excited about band, I was excited about girls, I was excited about basketball. I mean, that was the high school culture for me, So I think when we look at long-term effect, kids who are involved in something are going to have a better experience. It's going to take them forward in life.
I think that's exactly it, really, just having a sense of knowing that you were a part of something big and you made a difference and you got to impact everyone and have that social aspect every day, and you had people that you depended on and they depended on you, and it felt great. But I also think things that you learn in music that you don't learn in core classes such as math and science, those are skills that have taught me, such as marching band, where you have to be there every Friday night on this time and we're marching out that door whether you're there or not. Those are things that you have to take to a job interview, to the workplace, to other fields that have nothing to do with music at all, that have taught me and will teach other musicians that, you're on time, you're dedicated, you're committed, and all these skills that you can bring everywhere.
When I was in school, I had we did solo ensemble contest, and I got to write a score because we did a trio. And I remember the first time that I read the score, and I could literally see how all of the different parts intertwined to create music. And I so wish that I had some opportunity to show that to my English classes, because there's nothing in text to so clearly show them when this person is doing this loudly, these other people are doing this to support it, and then they take turns, and it just meanders, and then when it's all said and done, you've got music. And it was just the most amazing, right there aha moment for me. And that's one of the things I envy for you guys, because you do have that opportunity to, they can hear it, they can be part of that, and that's awesome. All right, so uniforms. Marching band has them. Does concert band have them, or do you provide them? Do parents have to provide them? How does that work?
How do you do it?
For me, I teach strictly strings, so we don't have any marching opportunities at all. I mean, maybe someday that'd be interesting. But we do, each program is a little different. I know programs will have something as simple as a t-shirt that the school will, basically they create, and the parents will pay, a small fee to keep that shirt, and the kid can use that shirt for as long as it fits them, and they will get a new one. And I've also seen programs where they have very, very strict policies where you order a dress, a long black dress, they must be to the floor, you must have this kind of shoe, you must have this in your hair, ties, black jackets, button covers. I think it really depends on the program and the situation, but it generally is the parents will provide some sort of fee to use those.
Yeah, and one of the things that you talk about parents asking and parents knowing, it is obligation of the director to inform the parents at the beginning of any and all financial obligations. Every county is different in how they fund their programs. There is no similarity. My students in college now are doing a whole lesson on handbooks and how to communicate with parents, and a critical part of this is to say, well, we're so glad that you're here, and by the way, this is the time, this is the money, this is what was expected. Because when you set up the expectation at the beginning, everybody knows, I understand now what you told me up front, this is what the expectation is.
Right.
We also then make sure that as a county, that their children have a problem. We can look at for donations and scholarships, and how do we help a child in the family that really has financial difficulty? They have to have a vest, a bow tie, whatever, a polo shirt. As a PTA president, as a father, many years ago, I would scholarship every child who couldn't go to a field trip. They couldn't buy their shirt. I'd go buy 15 shirts. I mean, PTA paid for that. No child should be denied that as long as it's a legitimate request. So I think everyone's different. It is the obligation of the school and the director to make sure the parents are aware of that.
And what I like about this discussion is it helps our parents realize that these are questions they need to be asking in case they're running out of time at an open house, or they're just not, that information is not being given to them up front.
Sure, and I can tell you, without going on, it is normal today's society, because we are a communication-driven society. They almost all have a website. Parents can go on the website and find the information. There's that schedule, we're not sure what time, because my sons couldn't bring things home in their backpack. If the teacher put in the backpack, my wife and I couldn't find the backpack. But we could go online and find, there's that information, here's that handbook, here's the information. So it's very rare nowadays that I find a music program in secondary that does not have a website that parents can immediately access any and all information. And the parents need to ask, no matter how busy the teacher is, ask them. Because they think, I won't bother you right now, bother them. And make sure that you get the information, because again, when you do that, we as a team, we raise your child, we parent together. The same values taught in orchestra, band, chorus are taught at home. Responsibility, be there on time. What should you do? Listen when we're speaking to you. I think parents realize it's one network, together.
So I think you've already answered my next question, which is to tell parents what they would need to do to support their child in band. So you're saying be on time, reiterate the same values, punctuality, monitoring how much time you spend with something, make sure that you have all the information you need in case your child forgets to tell you, by the way, there's a field trip, or there is a fundraiser, or I need a black tie mom kind of thing. So they need to just be willing to question and make sure that they have as much information as possible. Okay.
And volunteer. Be involved at any time. Parents believe what their child says initially. A child who comes home and says, "Well, I tell you, wow, Mr. So-and-so is the most wonderful teacher. I can't wait to meet him at open house." The parent who hears their child come home and they're unhappy, I'm being treated unfairly, I want to know why. Well, volunteer. If you're around, if parents are around that band, they're around the orchestra, the chorus, they see the teacher. This person's kind to all children. This person's welcoming to all children. Now I feel better, and I can help. It's always a team effort, but when parents don't volunteer and they don't get involved, there's a lot of confusion, especially when, again, they hear something negative. Because my sons did not tell me when they did something wrong. They told me they did something well.
Yes.
I think another important part of that, though, too, is as far as involvement goes, we are the performing arts, and supporting your child performing and honestly just being there at the performance and being proud of them and clapping. And I've heard so far jingle bells since September. I'm really done with jingle bells for my beginners, but every day you're like, hey, that note's better, you've gotten this down. Beginning strings or beginning band or beginning anything sounds rough in the beginning, and you're not going to want to hear it, but you have to encourage them so they do get better, and you have that. But really just being there, I think, in the audience and showing your support and clapping and smiling will go so far.
Yes. How many, if any, fundraisers might a parent expect out of a band program?
Once you start.
That's another one I think really applies to the program itself, depending on how long the program has been established, what resources do they have. Are you walking into a program that has no music library, no instruments? It'll depend on what you have available to you. It will depend on what you can offer your students. And if you can't offer them anything, or the demographic of your area where people don't have anything, also you're going to need to fundraise to help build that program and to help have materials in order to play music and perform and do what we need to do.
I think you're right in the money with it. Every county's different in how they fund any program in the school. I think principals are doing the best job they have because they're being given by the legislature every reform in the world. The school has become the panacea of all problems. In reality, the school is part of the solution. They should not be asked to take care of everything that a child should know. So it differs from principal to principal to principal, school district to school district. It is as different as it can be, because there are school districts that are absolutely, and they're in such terrible financial straits, just getting a child to where they need to be. And again, every so often a new mandate comes. Well, where do we fund that if you don't give us more funding? Because now we've got to go into, we're trying to help every child succeed. So we do ask our legislators, please be balanced in how you do things. I think it's important we do that. At the same time, parents need to know that fundraising is not fun, but it is a part of the program. And I think, I know my students, again, they're 21, 22 years old. They graduate from college, and their first thing is to make a 3 to 5 year plan.
Right.
And every parent should know, this is how my child's going to benefit from this. Mm-hmm. I believe in having groupthink. My children don't like to sell things. I don't know if you kids do that or not, but if we did a spaghetti dinner, raise a couple $1,000s, we had a car wash one time. It sounds crazy, we made $3,600 in a car wash.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Right.
Right. I think it's important.
Where does my child get an instrument, or do I have to provide that? Do I have to rent it? Do I have to buy it? Does the school help out with that? Where does
Good.
That's another program. I mean, for me, I have some instruments like the very big ones. The parents do pay a fee to have their child use one. Where I'm in a position right now where I'm lucky enough that the really big instruments, they can have one to keep at their house and then use one at the school during the day. That way they have something to practice at home. In many situations, you are asked to rent an instrument because you need it. You need to practice every day for some amount of time in order to get that muscle memory down and get your brain going. But I know that I have a situation also that I do have some kids that they will not be able to afford an instrument at all. And I also know a program in another county where the students basically sign a contract with the teacher and the parents, and everyone signs it, and they say, I will keep my grades up, I will do everything that I need to do, and in return, I will be able to use this instrument free of charge.
That's clever.
It's really nice, and it keeps the students focused and accountable for their actions, and it keeps them motivated, and they want to use that instrument, so they do well.
That's a great answer.
The end.
Is there anything that you think parents should know, pretending they know nothing about a music program whatsoever, before they say yes, go sign up with your counselor for band or strings or orchestra or anything else that perhaps I haven't asked?
Well, if I can jump into that, I deal with that all the time. And children, when they're 11, 12, 13 years old, they try things. Part of your earlier question, rental programs are important because we don't know what our child will be 3 months from now. Mm-hmm. And so if you rent a clarinet, then you're not obligated to that. Rent a violin. We have tons of used instruments in our music stores because, a child came in excited, mom and dad. But my sons tried football, they tried basketball. They're kids.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have college students who aren't sure what they're going to do in their life. I just retired 3 years ago. I still don't know what I'm going to do with my life yet. So the reality is, I think the rental programs allow children and parents to come in and see what is this all about. Because once you see the benefit, if you're an involved parent and you really want to be there and be at the concerts, I love your thought with that. Be at the concerts. Ask, how can I volunteer? Can I chaperone? Do something. They see that, and now I have a chance. If it doesn't work, fine, it's okay. One reason why I dated so many people in my lifetime before I got married was I don't know who they are, who I am. So you date to find the right person. You try basketball, football, band, chorus, orchestra. You say, wow, this is for me.
Yeah, find what fits.
Right. If it's not, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's really the most important thing, is that for parents to be willing for their children to try it. They might like it. If you were in band or orchestra or choir, your child may not enjoy that, or that may be their favorite thing, but you need to be willing to support them and choose whatever they need to choose. And also, if they pick the violin or, the clarinet and they're 5, you're not going to go buy them the most expensive one and then get upset when they say, I don't want to play this anymore. And then you force them to be in the program, because that just is going to cause problems later on down the road. So I think really just keeping an open mind, letting them try out different things, and being supportive of whatever it is that they want to try is the most important thing.
Well, I think that's it. I thank you both so very much for your time, most sincerely. I think this has been very educational, and like I said, anyone not knowing anything about music, should feel much more confident when they go and they talk to that director, when they talk to that counselor, and say, yes, sign my child up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me today.